In this video, I'm going to share with you why I failed at hitting high notes for 10 years until I learned this. And I couldn't believe it when I learned this. I was so surprised. And I had been performing, but I couldn't sing the high notes. I was a tenor maxing out at an A flat. I'm going to tell you exactly why. And if you don't know this, and you might not, you probably don't, it'll blow you away. Anyway, let's get on with it. The number one reason is because there is a second bridge in the voice for men and women that I did not know about. Now, I wanted to be an opera singer. I don't have an operatic voice. I was pushing my voice beyond any recognizable proportions. But despite that, knocking out my first bridge, right? And things were just not going my way as far as this goes. So I managed to get good enough to start performing. And I was doing some performing, but I wasn't where I wanted to be. So I found a wonderful teacher in Los Angeles named Seth, and I found him in 1988. Give you an idea, I had my first voice lesson in 1974. So that's 14 years later, right? I found Seth. The first lesson, it was a 15-minute lesson because I couldn't afford his rate. He was $200 an hour back then. A buddy of mine and I split a half hour. So $50 a piece, I got 15 minutes. But in that 15 minutes, I learned that there was a second bridge. I learned in that moment, that enlightening moment, why I didn't have high notes. Because I was making it at times through the first bridge okay, but then I didn't know I had to shift again. That's like having a car with a 3-speed transmission back in the clutch days when I was a kid, right? You may know how to do that and shift gears. So you have your first gear, you push in the clutch, go into second gear, push in the clutch, go into third gear. Well, I could sometimes push the clutch in and get into second gear, but I didn't know there was a third gear. I didn't know there was a second bridge. So I would just do what I used to do until I finally worked out the first bridge and push like crazy to get up through the second bridge, not realizing that there was a second bridge and that I had to back off again and allow that balance to continue and that release to continue. So singing high notes is like hanging on and letting go at the same time. I mean, there's certain things you have to hang on to, but there are other things you have to let go of. So that was magic to me. Just that information changed my whole vocal life. That 15-minute lesson and that information of realizing there's a second bridge. So for men, right? For men, if your first bridge, sweeping generalization, I'm not talking about basses here, but there are very few real basses. Same principles apply, just lower in the voice, right? But I think most men are going to bridge somewhere around this D, E flat, E4, right? And across the bridge is about a G4. You cross the bridge, right? Well, you got another bridge I didn't know about. Starts about A, right? If you're not getting into your second bridge as a man by A natural, you're going to be pushing like crazy to the B flat. You're going to be what we used to refer to as an A tenor, meaning he's a tenor, but he can only sing up to an A. Why? Because none of these guys knew about their second bridge. I didn't. None of them do either, right? The minute you learn about it and you learn how to negotiate it, boom, your whole top opens up. And all of a sudden, B flat, B, C, and on up, okay? Now for women, your first bridge is going to be somewhere between this G4 and B flat 4, depending on the vowel you're singing, right? So your second bridge is going to be at about E flat 5, right? If you don't allow that same thing to happen again and you don't release, you're not going to make it. That's why so many women can't sing in their upper high notes about D, E flat, E, and F and beyond. Is because they're pulling so much weight through the first bridge, they don't know there's a second bridge. So by the time you get to C sharp or D, maybe, you're belting out as strong as you can and you can't get any higher because you've missed the balance in the first bridge, which throws off the balance in the second bridge that you might not even know exists. So that is a major thing. To know that it exists and to know how to allow the voice to thin out so that you can negotiate through the second bridge. Now, I have a fantastic video that shows you how to do that. It's on my THF System. It's about a half-hour video. It's absolutely great. It comes as a bonus with my Fearless Singing book, which is also great. If you'd like to get that book and the bonus video to really be guided through all this stuff, then comment book in the comments. Just write book in the comments, and there'll also be a link to all the stuff in the description of the video. Now, let's get on to number 2. Number 2 is, I didn't even know what a mix was, right? I thought you had chest voice and head voice was just, for a man, kind of a light, pretty sound, right? Akin to falsetto, but not quite. But it's just singing beautifully, softly, which I could never do, right? I can do it now real easily. It's one of my best tricks, as I say, but I couldn't do it then. But I didn't know what a mix was. I thought the high notes were just pulled chest. And a lot of my teachers thought that. And this is going back some. I mean, there's not that kind of ignorance running rampant anymore in the voice world. But I got to tell you, there is some, and I've seen videos on YouTube that talk about the high notes being all chest voice, and they're just categorically wrong, so don't listen to that. I didn't know there was a mix, right? So if I don't know there's a mix, and I don't know there's a second bridge, what chance do I have with my voice that is a manual shift at the time where I had to shift gears, and I didn't even know that there were any gears to shift into? So I thought there was chest and the ability to sing it way, way up high. And of course, all the people I was listening to, it sounded like chest voice up there. So I just thought, well, I guess I don't have it, right? And I had 12 voice teachers, and I still trying to do this, right? So I finally learned there was a mix. And again, go over this extensively in the book and the video. Again, comment book in the comments if you want to get this. Now, is this resonating with you guys? Let me know in the comments what kind of challenges you have. Did you know there was a second bridge? Let me know. Yeah, I know there's a second bridge. It's common knowledge. Or no, I didn't know there was a second bridge. I'll tell you, it wasn't common knowledge when I learned it. But and I know just from watching YouTube videos and kind of knowing what's going on out there, it may not be common knowledge to a lot of you now, okay? The mix is a common knowledge, but I didn't know it existed and I didn't know what it was. So I'm just telling you why I failed. And if you can identify with any of this, then that's good. The video is doing its job. Number 3. Well, number 3, I've gone over just a little bit. But I didn't know how to thin out my voice. And I had a teacher in the 70s, and all he did was say, thin it out, thin it out. But he couldn't show me how to do it. Everything he was helping me do was helping me thicken it up, even though he kept saying thin it out. Who can do that? The voice works so involuntary. How do you just, if I say to you, well, your problem is you're singing too heavy, just thin it out. How do you do that? Well, again, I show you how to do it in my THF System video. So again, comment book. I'm going to stop saying that. I'm sorry. I get excited because I do show you how to do it in that video, and I don't have time to do it right now and show you how to do it. Anyway, but you got to learn how to thin the voice out. You've got to learn how to pass off from the chest voice into the mix and back down again in a smooth fashion. And that's really important and paramount. And I know a lot of your favorite singers don't sound like they do that, but they do. The only way they can do it is to pass off from the muscles that control the chest voice to the muscles that control the head voice. That's the only way they got high notes. No matter how great their high notes are and how full and strong and how much they sound like their chest voice, they are usually a mix, right? And when I say usually, I'm saying a lot of really yelled high notes, if somebody can really, really yell that high, maybe they can stretch their chest voice up. I couldn't, I tell you. I mean, I could stretch my chest voice up to about an A flat and I was all done. And I had one volume, loud and yelly. I had no control of it, no vibrato in it, because it was basically a yell, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to learn how to do this the right way. So by the time you get this stuff going, you are going to want to know how to belt, right? Because once you get this stuff going, once you learn how to really, really nail your high notes, then you're going to want to know how to belt. So watch this next video on belting. And it's basically, don't do this. Don't belt before you learn this stuff. So that'll be a really great one for you to watch. Anyway, I love doing this. I will see you soon. Go watch that video.